Hello everybody, I hope you're going well. Today I will show you the Queen's Gambit. I will show you how to play that opening with the white pieces and then of course with the black pieces, and I will also show you one of the best games that has ever existed with that opening. So the Queen's Gambit is when we start the game with the Queen's pawn, so d4, black goes d5 and we go c4. Why is it called a Gambit? Because we are sacrificing a side pawn. Believe it or not, but it might be actually problematical to sacrifice that pawn, especially when we don't know how to get it back. For example, let's say black responds with c6. This is a Slav defense, and e6 is the Queen's Gambit decline. If you want to go for the Queen's Gambit, by the way, the only move that you need to play is knight c3, bishop g5, e3, and then just bring the pieces out and castle. And this is all you need. Then rook c1 is the plan with knight e5, and then either you attack on the queen side or on the king side. And to keep it very simple, it is the best approach for white. It is solid enough to win. But something that you have to understand is that this pawn on c4 isn't really takeable. Let's say, for example, c6, a Slav defense. Knight c3. It is possible that black will try to take that pawn. And if we go e4, black is more likely going to play b5, because it is logical. We are defending the pawn. a4 is playable, and this is actually the move that I'm recommending you. And the idea is pretty simple. If you go, for example, for a6, there is just a very simple tactical shot. We can take on b5. Black cannot take with the a pawn because the rook is hanging on a8. And if black takes with the c pawn, there is another tactical move. Boom! Knight takes b5. So we took the pawn back. We lost the c pawn, but in return we get the b pawn. And if black takes back, we get the rook again. So this is not a good move. And let's say we play a bad move like knight f3 right now. Black is in time to play bishop b7, and this is this type of situation which we can really, with quite a lot of trouble, defend with the white pieces, because now black is solid enough to actually protect everything because the rook is protected. And now if we take, black can actually take with the a pawn back because now the rook is protected. But okay, this is just to show you in the Slav defense. That is why I would recommend you to just play a4 first, trying to make sure that there is no problem with b5. It's possible that black will try a move like a6, but it doesn't matter because we can go e4, we are attacking this pawn again, and if b5, like I said, we are transposing into this line with the knight sacrifice, but it's not a real sacrifice because the rook on a8 is hanging. So this is what I'm recommending you, to go a4 first. Let's say knight bd7, we will go e4, trying to get the pawn, and if e5, it's not a problem. We have d5 taking a lot of space, and this is a position that I will recommend you. Knight f6, bishop c4, and now the game starts. I would recommend you to go knight e2 castles or knight f3 castles. Then it is a chess game. White is slightly better because of the d pawn. Of course, you always have to be sure that knight b6 isn't the move, but right now there is bishop b5 check, and we are in time to actually protect everything. But okay, let's go back into the game. Something else that you have to look at is the immediate taking on c4. Because now if we go e4, we have to be sure that b5 isn't a move. But now we are very, very lucky because we have a4. So if a6, we can take the pawn and we have it. Black cannot take back because we take on a8. So let's say after a4, black goes c6. Now we have a special move that you have to know, because otherwise it's difficult to go for. It is a takes b5, so black has to take back, otherwise it doesn't make any sense. And now we go for knight c3. Knight c3 is attacking the pawn again. If you go a6, again there is knight takes b5 and pin. So black has to either go b4 or bishop d7. Let's say b4. Now we do have, at the very, very least, a queen a4 check, bishop d7 and queen takes b4, and if e6 or e5 we have queen takes e4, and now white is just up a pawn, and the position is simply winning for white. The a7 pawn is a weakness because it isn't a passed pawn, we are better developed. This is weak, this is good, everything here is good. Knight f3 is next move, just up a pawn, so it is an easy game to go for. Now, let's go back. It is possible that black will actually go for bishop d7, but if bishop d7, again, you can just take back on b5, black has to take, and now we go knight c3. We are attacking the bishop again. If a6, knight takes b5 again. So bishop a6, we can go for rook takes a6, knight takes a6, and queen a4 check, and we will get the knight and the pawn back, and we're just up a pawn in a second, and we already have 2 pieces for a rook, so white is simply winning. Yeah, so, and if c6, important, now we can go for b3. The idea is that if you take on b3, I can just take on b5 with the knight, pawn takes, and bishop b5 check. We have to stop the check, and queen takes b3. We are not down a pawn anymore, but we're just going to attack on the light squares. We have a strong center. If knight f6, we can just go e5 immediately, and then knight f3, bishop e3, castles, you know, the rook's in the middle, and this is just a target. If the pawn was on a7, it would eventually be a problem, but this pawn is just a forever weakness, and this is not good. So white is simply winning in that position. Let's go back. It is something that you have to know, because otherwise playing the Queen's Gambit might be actually very difficult. Yeah. So if e6, again, knight c3. If now black takes on e4, you can go e4 or e3. By the way, I have a funny variation for you. You can also go e3, trying to take back. b5 isn't a move because knight takes b5, so that's about it. And let's say you go for a6, bishop c4, b5. It is possible. You can actually go for bishop d3, bishop b7, knight f3, and what's funny is that you will go a4, and you will attack the b5 pawn like it is the b5 pawn that we saw a minute ago, this b5 pawn, even though it isn't the same. But actually, it is the same. I don't know how to better formulate that. Yeah, you would just go a4 and continue to attack on the queen side. So this is exactly the same idea. Yeah. What else? It's possible that after knight c3, black will go c5, for example. This is the Tarrasch defense. I would just show you a very easy variation to keep in mind for white. I would just recommend you to take on d5. If pawn takes d4, we take it back with the queen. No reason to feel scared. If knight c6, playing on the pin, and queen d1, this position is all right. So black takes back. Now we go knight f3, defending the pawn on d4, knight c6, and now g3. We want to go bishop g2, knight f6, bishop g2, bishop d6, for example. We can go castles, and black has to play super dynamical chess because this is an isolated d-pawn, and white will actually go bishop g5, starting to put a lot of pressure in the center, and this position is basically alright for white. I have very good results against the international master Eugene Tripolsky. It is an international master who's playing on the FIDE online arena. It is the chess website of the FIDE, and we played a lot of games together. Yeah, we never spoke together, but we had quite a big amount of games together, and this is a position that I reached the most against him. And after bishop e6, usually I take on c5, then I go for rook c1, playing on the fact that this is not protected. I can at some point take there, and of course if d4 to feel aggressive, there is bishop takes f6, queen takes back, and knight e4, attacking the queen and the bishop. So it is not a good, or at the very least, it isn't an easy position for black. This is my recommendation against the Tarrasch defense. Of course, now we will talk about the main line. If you go knight f6, my recommendation is easy peasy. Okay, bishop f4 is a drawish line. That is just to go rook c1, but bishop g5 is a nice move. Let's say we go bishop e7, we go e3 to just defend the pawn, castles, bishop d3. For example, let's say knight bd7, one of the main moves. We can just go knight f3, castles, queen c2, or bishop b1, queen c2, trying to go for a checkmate. But at the very least, even if you do not manage to attack on the king's side, you will actually attack in the middle with knight e5, thanks to the outpost on e5, and the rook on the c file. At some point, you would just take and go knight b5, so you're having, a very flexible game. If you have any more questions about the Queen's Gambit, just let me know in the comment section. I'll be more than happy to answer your questions. Thank you very much. Subscribe to the channel. Hopefully you are enjoying this opening video series. See you in the future. Take care.